Hey guys, Sean C. Phillips here. We've got a brand new DVD Blu-ray Tuesday shop video today. Today going to go out, see the stuff that came out, try and go to one or two different spots today as well. Also going to have a couple new DVD and Blu-ray reviews at the end of this video. If you guys haven't seen it yet too, definitely check out my video that I filmed at VidCon. I posted that up yesterday. I'll put a link to that underneath this video as well if you guys haven't seen it yet. So anyway though guys, let's get going and see what we can find today. Into Target we go.
Yeah, the main things that came out today was, Kung Fu Panda 3, which I reviewed in my last video. This one has an only at Target one. It has a bonus DVD with over 20 minutes of exclusive content. It has a thing in here for like a free combo, like soda and drink thing in here. And that seems to be like their main difference here. And the other one that came out today was a Tina Fey movie, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. And this one was okay. Didn't absolutely love this movie, but it was okay. I would say it's probably more of a worth renting kind of one though.
Into the Family Dollar we go.
So let's take a look and see what's in here. I see a lot of these like single $2 ones in here again, like these Descendants. There are some kind of weird ones in here. I think these are all ones that like come from like the Redbox machine, because see they have these things on them. So I think they're all kind of like Redbox copies of things like Serena, Pink Panther. But sometimes it's weird, like even Redbox lately is starting to get things that are not releasing on DVD in stores anywhere or anything like that. So some things in Redbox are going to be kind of down the line, kind of weird ones to find, like one like called Carrier and a couple other ones like that. And they may get real releases down the line, but I don't know. There's this weird one here called I Kissed a Vampire, which I don't think I had ever heard of this one. Did not know anything about this at all. And Frankenstein Unbound, and I think it's a Roger Corman one. I don't know if I've ever seen this one or not. And 13th Ghost, I remember this one. I think these are starting to come out from Mill Creek on Blu-ray. I think this one might be coming out. I don't know for sure. I know a lot of those ones are starting to. But a lot of like sort of typical stuff in here, but sometimes they change it out. You can find some kind of weird things in here. Like Hank Williams First Nation, don't know anything about that. And The Mummy, the animated series. But not really seen anything. That's kind of a weird one to see. I remember you see this one everywhere, and not for a long time. This Evening with Kevin Smith. He hasn't done one of these DVD releases like this in a long time. I used to always see him a lot at Comic-Con, but it's always now like so impossible to get into those panels and stuff. That like I haven't seen him in one of them in a long time, but I wonder if he's going to be there for, Yoga Hosers this year, which hopefully he is, because I kind of would like to see the one for that. But they've definitely got a lot more of these $2 ones. They have even more of them down here. They've like got tons of these $2 ones, like Oogie Boogie and stuff. Like I said, they must have just like bought a huge stock of like the Redbox copies out. And there's tons of them down here. Bubble. Now this was a great movie. I have this one already, but that's a weird movie that I feel like hardly anyone's seen, and it was all not real actors in it. It was just like people in the town, but they were like some of the best actors on the entire planet. Really love this movie. If you guys have never seen Bubble, definitely check this out. It's a really cool, weird movie.
Into Movies 94 Cents we go.
This place is kind of cool to come in every so often. It's way more of a rental place. I don't think there's really anything you can buy in here for sure, but they always have kind of a cool selection of stuff, and it's always cool to kind of come into these mom and pop kind of video rental places because they're a real throwback. It's always just kind of cool to come in them, and they carry some stuff that you don't see a lot of places, like Creep, which is really like this, and really wondering if they're going to make the sequel to this or not, because that was a really creepy found footage movie, and there's a couple other weird ones you don't always see other places. And you always got to look at the sun-drenched covers, the washed out covers in here. Anything like especially that's white always becomes super washed out, like a little bit more washed out than it should be. Like you can always tell, like Saved. I always remember coming into Blockbuster as a kid, and they used to, before they put like walls up in front of the windows to block the sun, you used to always see like the stuff that was in the front, right in front of the windows, was always totally washed out. Like you'd always see super washed out, like Toxic Avengers and stuff like that. I always remember that. And like you can always tell, like the older it is, the more washed out of a look it has. These ones are not terrible, but they still have that classic video store washed out look to them. And it's kind of cool to see this one in like a rental place, because on the back of this one they actually have a quote for me on it for this movie called Home Invasion. It's like the smartest, most complex home invasion film in years, and it says Sean C. Phillips Coolduder. This is like only the second thing I ever had like a quote on. The other thing was Death by Temptation that Trauma put out years ago, but like I never actually saw this in a place to rent or buy or anything, so I thought it was kind of cool to actually see that in here today, because that's the first time I've actually seen that anywhere in person anywhere. And ever since I started coming in here, they've always had this box of movies for $1. I don't think anyone's ever bought any of them in here. They've been in here forever. These like Species 2, Lady in White VHS, These have been in here since I've been coming in here for like months and months and months and months. Not like years these tapes have been just sitting here hellbound. I don't think anyone's ever bought any of them. Into the Goodwill we go. So we'll take a look and see what's in here. This one's kind of cool. I used to always watch this when this was on. I have this one. I don't think they put out all the other seasons of this, and they brought it back like a year or two ago. It's Project Greenlight. It's like basically a show on HBO about them making a movie and showing the whole process. And then like at the end, you know, they would, right before it came out to theaters, they'd like show you the whole thing of making it. But we'll see if there's anything different in here. A lot of times it's always the same stuff in these places, but you never know. Like I said though, they do like scan the items, so you're not going to really find anything super out of print in here unless it sort of slips through the cracks and things like that, but very rarely does that happen. This one, I always love this movie, Count of Monte Cristo. Like, I don't like a lot of movies that are like this type of film. For some reason, this one, I've watched this movie so many times, this one. And this one doesn't have as many movies. Like, some of these locations have a huge selection. This one really doesn't have a whole lot at all. It's like very small amount. And I always see these when they had these full screen editions. Like, that's one thing I'm so glad this doesn't exist anymore. I used to always remember the pain when you had to go to stores and you always had to try and find the widescrreen one. You know, a lot of times they didn't have them, and it was, or they never put them out. It was a huge to-do. Or if you had someone get them for you, like when I was a kid at school, like I had my mom like get certain movies, and I used to have to say, make sure you don't get the one that's full screen. Make sure you get the widescreen one. It was always a huge to-do thing. But it doesn't look like anything really too different here today. They do have some, you know, classic 8-track tapes. You know, if anybody wants any of these, though. George Benson, The Hungry Years. So yeah, you could always put these in, you know, the 8-track player. And look, they even have like an old casing for the 8-tracks, like one of these old things you keep them in. So this person must have just been like, I'm done with these 8-tracks. I've had them long enough, and they finally got rid of them. You know, Percy Faith's greatest hits. That's kind of funny. You know, just to see, especially in like an old spinning thing like that of them. Ooh, what is that on the thing at the Dollar Tree? Like, what did someone throw up on the window there? Yuck. And they wrote on there, Hulk. Ew, that's very gross. Well, I came here to see, like, after over a month, like, what are the dollar DVDs that were left, and all they have in here is ER, like the TV Premiere DVD one. I remember when these, like, first came out, they were, like, I think 2004, and they put, like, one episode of the shows on them. I think they had, like, Gilligan's Island and a couple other ones of these. They were kind of a weird thing, like, in these paper cases. They might have had, like, 1 or 2 shows, too, that never really even got, like, a real release. There was only, like, that's the only thing you could get of them. And then the only other thing left, too, is Billy Blank's Taboo. That's it. That's all that's left of them. Into Walmart we go. Yeah, the main stuff that came out today is like Kung Fu Panda. They have a 3-movie collection, one of them together. This is one of those only at Walmart ones. I don't see a Blu-ray release of this one though, you know, with all 3 of them together. And you know, Whiskey Tango, Foxtrot. And this one that looks kind of interesting, called Devoured, Evil Lies Within. It sounds like it's like someone working at like a restaurant or something. It sounds kind of interesting. I hadn't heard anything about this one at all. I don't know if this is one of those weird ones that's, you know, only sold at Walmart or not. Because sometimes they have those kind of things like that. But this looks kind of interesting though. I might get this one. I think it's $15. It's a little high, but looks kind of cool. And I think this one was today too. Precious Cargo, like a Bruce Willis movie. I don't know anything at all about this one or not though. Other than that, in the section, it seems like all the same stuff from the last couple weeks. I don't see anything new. This one might have been new, this one Out of the Darkness, but other than that, I don't really see anything else too different. So I don't know if this one was today, maybe? This Cage No More, I'm not sure. But other than that, I'm not seeing anything else too different today, at least as far as I can tell over here.
Yeah, so I ended up getting that Devoured movie. Like I said, I don't know too much about the movie, but it kind of sounds interesting though. Into Best Buy we go. It's funny, they put out these like summer screams. These are the ones they usually put out, you know, during Halloween time, like October and stuff. These, you know, Return of the Living Dead ones that have like these, you know, kind of artwork covers on them, which are like those paper things on top, you know, like the Fly. This one I don't know if I'd ever seen before, this Donnie Darko one. I don't feel like this one was out that much. I don't recall seeing that one a lot. And, you know, Jeepers Creepers. This one doesn't have anything on it, Silence of the Lambs or Amityville. But these were pretty cool when these came out, but there's been a lot of new editions of a lot of these. Like, I have a feeling down the line there'll be a new one of the Fly. But, you know, like Scream Factory has the Jeepers Creepers ones out now and stuff, and the Return of the Living Dead, which is out in a couple weeks.
Yeah, but not a lot of stuff today. One of the only other things that came out today was, Adventures in Babysitting, which I actually talked about in the last video, and I actually thought this was actually a fun remake. It's not perfect or anything, but it kind of goes in another direction. I think it's like Disney Channel's like 100th movie. It's kind of cool, but it actually really wasn't bad at all. And they don't seem to have any other editions of, Kung Fu Pan. It seems like the only place... Oh, no, actually, they do have one that says only at Best Buy. I guess this is the only at Best Buy, the one that has the 3D one. So I guess that's the only place you can get the 3D release, at least as far as I can tell, or at least maybe it has the DVD as well. But I think that's, I guess only a 3D version is at Best Buy.
Well, that's all for this DVD Blu-ray Tuesday shopping video today. Today, the one main thing I picked up was that movie Devoured. Like I said, I don't know much at all about it. Looked kind of interesting, though. Anyway, though, guys, stay tuned now for a couple new DVD and Blu-ray reviews. And the first one from Arrow Video US is a really fun movie called Return of the Killer Tomatoes, which looks great on Blu-ray. I always really like this, and we love the Killer Tomatoes movies. They're real fun, self-aware movies where they know they're not great movies, and they're kind of banking on that, and they're kind of even poking fun at them, because they're kind of like so bad it's good kind of movies. This is a follow-up to the first film. This has, John Astin playing this crazy, insane scientist, and he plays it super, super all over the top, looking at the camera some points, doing these crazy laughing, and he's basically, doing all kinds of these weird experiments with tomatoes, and he's discovered this ability to turn tomatoes into fighters that are going to be basically making his own tomato fighters army, and the kind of fighters kind of look like Rambo and all these kind of other weird characters, and he has this one ditzy guy that works for him, and he even created his own tomato girlfriend, and it's kind of like ridiculous stuff going on here. And also they always have really great weird theme songs, that Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, those songs that get stuck in your head forever. Once you hear them, you're probably going to hear them for the rest of the day, probably even the next day you're going to remember these songs. I always remember as a kid too, the theme song got stuck in my head. I don't know, I really like these movies. Has a great transfer on here, but basically though it deals with George Clooney and his friend who work at a pizza restaurant, and it's kind of, since the tomatoes have been like what happened in the first movie, and they hate tomatoes, they can't even put tomato sauce on the pizza, so they have all these weird type of toppings like peanut butter and all kinds of odd stuff on them since they can't have tomatoes. And George Clooney's friend ends up discovering what's going on, because he ends up meeting the girl that John Astin's character created that's actually the tomato woman. He ends up falling in love with her, and it's kind of a thing that's going on about having to try and stop John Astin's character and what he's going to do and what his plans are. And like I said too, this is one of George Clooney's earliest movies, like one of his earlies, not his very first, but like one of his early ones. But really fun movie. It has on here though a commentary track with the director, interview with one of the actors in this movie, but definitely worth checking out. Looks great on Blu-ray. The next one is a really cool documentary on Ray Harryhausen called Ray Harryhausen Special Effects Titan, and this is basically has interviews in here with Peter Jackson, James Cameron, Steven Spielberg, Tim Burton, Guillermo del Toro, Joe Dante, John Landis, Terry Gilliam. It's basically talking to them about how they were influenced by Ray Harryhausen and his stop motion techniques, because he was one of the very, very first people doing stop motion. He did stop motion in like Beast of from 20,000 Fathoms, It Came from the Sea, Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, Mysterious Island. Really cool early stop motion animation. Like, really love that kind of look to the stuff that he did. And it kind of talks to him in here as well before he passed away, talking to him, so interviews with him and people, the directors, and basically kind of talking about how they were influenced by him and his techniques, and kind of how that kind of inspired them to be directors and to do the kind of things that they did. But if you're interested in like stop motion, that kind of stuff, definitely worth checking out on here. Really thought this was a well done documentary. Next one is going to show you guys that came out. It's the Nikkatsu Diamond Guys Volume 2. This is from Our Video US as well. It has on here, I think it's 4 different movies on here. It has Tokyo Mighty Guy. It has on here Joe Shinasto, and then Murder Unincorporated. So I think it's 3 movies on here. But this is the follow-up, the volume, I'm not saying it right, but Nikkatsu Diamond Guys Volume 2. Not Dolls, I know, Diamond Guys Volume 2. But they're basically Japanese kind of crime films. They're like kind of the movies that kind of inspired Quentin Tarantino early on films, but really cool set if you guys are interested in these ones. And here's a little look inside. It has a booklet with, you know, with stuff about the films, and then it's, you know, a 3-disc set. It has on here too the alternate artwork as well. It's really cool alternate artwork on the back of this one. But anyway, though, guys, now the next one from Sony. This is an interesting, like, fun movie. It's from the director of Kung Fu Hustle, which is, you know, if you guys have seen that one, it's kind of an over-the-top kind of spoof kind of kung fu film, and this movie too has that same kind of vibe to it, and also the same kind of humor the director has. Really like his kind of weird humor. This is actually too one of China's biggest all-time movies. I think it made like the most money of any Chinese release film ever made. This movie's called The Mermaid, and this is on Blu-ray. And this is basically though about this guy who's this land developer who has gotten this money. You know, he's going to basically be taking up this part of this land that he's going to be doing developments on. It's going to mess around with the sea, and the one guy is like doing these weird experiments, and he's like showing that it's gonna blow up the fish and make them all die, and all this kind of weird stuff that's going on. And he ends up basically, and I also want to say too, the beginning of this movie was amazing. This one guy, you know, he's like having this sham museum where he's like doing all these weird stuff, and he even dresses like a mermaid and stuff. I don't know, the opening was amazing, really funny opening this movie. But basically though, it turns out though that where the area where they're going to be doing this development is where these mermaids are actually living. Like, these, no one knows about them, but there is like this whole kingdom of mermaids, and they end up saying this one woman to basically go and seduce the guy who's, you know, buying up this land, and kind of keep him from having this happen. And it's kind of this bumbling thing of this girl coming who's a mermaid, and they have her showing how she dresses to kind of blend in and have her tail covered up, and it's kind of cool concepts going on here. But basically though, she's sent to kind of, you know, kind of take him out. It's kind of these bumbling situations that go on with her getting into all these problems why she's trying to take him out, and also it deals with a love story between them as well. And it's like the kind of mermaids that are with her are doing all these kind of things that are going on, and it's all going wrong. I don't know, I just thought it's a very, very fun movie. Really ridiculous. Like I said, if you know Kung Fu Hustle, you know the kind of vibe to this one, and really great effects in this movie. Like, really some very inventive stuff and really cool concepts going on. It has on here though a behind the scenes, a music video on the making of The Mermaid, but definitely worth checking out if you like those kind of films. The next one from Sony as well, and is a movie called Dear Eleanor. Dear Eleanor. It's basically, you know, about this. It's actually directed by Kevin Connolly, you know, from, you know, Entourage. And it's the star of this is the one woman from, you know, Orphan, who actually played Esther in Orphan. And I hadn't seen her in a movie in a long time. She was actually really good in this. The other girl was from, I think, Haunter, or one of these horror movies I had seen recently. And the one Chloe Grace movie. And this basically, though, is, like I said, Dear Eleanor. And it's about this one girl whose mother was going to be doing this, presenting this kind of thing that she'd written up to Eleanor Roosevelt, you know, who was the president's wife. Unless I'm mixing that all up, but I'm pretty sure about that, unless I'm totally wrong on that. But basically, she was going to be presenting this, but she ends up actually dying. This is set during the 50s, but she ends up dying before she can. So she kind of, the friend is kind of knows that her daughter is kind of upset about this. Her friend is upset about what had happened, about her mother not ever getting to give this address and give this speech that she wrote. So she kind of talks her one friend into writing this letter and making it, because like the girl has basically been writing letters and stuff to Eleanor Roosevelt and hoping that they can kind of meet and things like that. So she ends up talking the one friend, this guy, into writing this letter and making it look like she actually wrote back saying, "Oh, I would love to meet you someday. Maybe someday you can come and see me." So basically what happens though is they end up taking this road trip of trying to, you know, they leave and to try and actually go and see Eleanor Roosevelt to, you know, actually tell her what, you know, how she influenced her mother and all that kind of stuff. And that's kind of what it is. It's kind of a road trip, and Luke Wilson plays the father, and he kind of is trying to come after her and get her daughter back because he's kind of worried because they ran off. And it's kind of like the situations that they get into along the way. I actually kind of like this movie. It kind of reminded me of like Tumbleweeds and some of those kind of movies from like the year like 99 to 2000, like Crazy in Alabama. Those kind of, if you know those kind of movies, this movie definitely had that kind of vibe to it to me. And I actually thought it was actually pretty good. Jessica Alba is in this movie as well, but I think this one's definitely worth checking out. It has on here though a commentary track with the director and a writer's commentary as well. The next one is released from a company called Skip Rope, and it's Roald Dahl, Roald Dahl's the BFG, Big Freak Friendly Giant, which is actually coming out soon too from Disney from the Steven Spielberg movie. So I really look forward to seeing that one. This is the original film that that was taken from the book, and this is from like 1980, I think 1989. This is one of those ones I remember as a kid seeing a long time ago. I feel like I might have even seen this at school. My favorite Roald Dahl's movie, book that was turned into a movie was The Witches, and then I would say, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. But Witches, though, for some reason, that to me lives on as like one of my favorite movies of all time, and just that story, everything. I know he wasn't really happy with the result of that, and just the way, because it was changed around a little bit, but I always really loved it. This is basically about this friendly giant who becomes friends with this girl who's an orphan, but at the same time there's these land of these terrible giants that actually want to eat children. That's essentially what it was, though. But it's a brand new transfer on this one. Looks really good. Definitely one I would say, if you guys are a fan of this, definitely worth checking out too. Like I said, really looking forward to seeing the new one coming out too. And this one from Twilight Time, this is a limited edition release to 3,000 copies, is a movie I had never seen before, starring Richard Dreyfuss and Bob Hoskins, called Inserts. And it's basically, though, about Richard Dreyfuss playing this adult film director. This is set during the time I think it was in the 30s, right when they're starting to have like talking, sound and things like that. And he's kind of making these early days adult films that are black and white, no sound. People are starting to change over, and he's kind of set in his ways, and it's all set in his mansion. It's at the same time being threatened to be torn down, to be turned into this highway. And he's in there drinking, and really he's a giant disaster. And it's him trying to finish up his newest movie that he's doing, and that's essentially what it is him trying to, with the one actress trying to put it together. And then the one actress who was from Suspiria is in this as well, and she kind of comes in without ruining too much of what's going on. But like I said, it's essentially though just watching him kind of have a downward spiral of all these issues that are going on with him, and trying to address all kinds of problems he has in his life. And Bob Hoskins, like I said, this is one of his earliest movies. Really thought this was a pretty interesting movie. Like I said, I feel like not a lot of people have seen this one, and really underrated movie, but really great Richard Dreyfuss and Bob Hoskins movie. The next one from Wild Eye Releasings is a really fun movie called Shark Exorcist. Donald Farmer directed this one. He's been directing movies for years. A lot of really fun films. And this one is basically, though, about this nun who's really upset at the world, and she puts like this spell onto like the sea, and it basically turns this shark that's like this, basically possesses this shark that's going around killing people. And like there's some really ridiculous scenes of the sharks getting like killing these people. They kind of come to the beach and stuff like that. And there's one woman too who's like believes she's like in touch with the shark, and she's like getting possessed and things like that. She's like, oh, shark. I don't know, it's like these crazy sequences of stuff that are going on, and like just these crazy deaths, and like different characters kind of come into play about coming to the lake and things like that, about the shark attacking them and stuff like that. I don't know, I thought it was kind of a fun, kind of fun, like if you know this kind of movies, you know what this is. And it's like the effects of the shark, are cheesy and fun, kind of attacking everybody. And I don't know, I like these kind of films. And the next one from Wild Eye Releasing as well as Consumption. This is a pretty interesting movie. A couple of people I knew were in this one, so I was really interested in watching this. It's basically about a group of friends that are coming to like the mountains during the middle of the snow, real snowy time. And there's like the one guy too is like in the car, he's like saying all this stuff and talking a lot, and like he's like saying, oh, I killed my mother died recently, and everyone's just sort of sitting in the car like, like it's like there's something funny about that scene, because he's like, yeah, all right. They were not like phased at all by this crazy stuff this guy was saying, but they end up going out to the mountains, and there's kind of weird characters there. And the one guy was the guy who was in that documentary, is like about like extras, and I recognized that guy immediately, like that was that guy from that documentary about like the extras that were in like hundreds of these movies. And I think it was like World's Greatest Extra, one of those things. I always remember that documentary though, but he was in this playing one of the guys that was like sort of like the crazy people that lived in the area where they were. But basically though, the one guy has this suitcase, and it's like a dead body in the suitcase, and odd stuff starts happening to all of them in this mountain retreat, and you're trying to figure out what is going on, and everybody's acting really strange. And it's one of those movies when they're all kind of having like something going on, and there's some kind of thing in the background of happening going on here. But a pretty interesting movie. Like I said, I was really interested in checking this out because a couple of people I knew were in this. One actress from, Haunting of Whaley House, Ariel Bradford. So I was interested in seeing this. But anyway, though, guys, that's all for, the review portion of this video. And I'll see you guys later.